Infrastructure is the backbone of any thriving community, yet some places seem to rely more on quick fixes and wishful thinking than a solid foundation. Here's a countdown of 10 cities where the infrastructure is so sketchy you'd think that duct tape is the primary holding agent. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Pritchard, Alabama. Pritchard's water infrastructure is in such dire straits that the city officials are practically waving white flags, pleading for federal and state intervention. The mayor's office has issued a desperate call for assistance, drawing parallels to the crisis in Flint, Michigan. Residents are grappling with water woes reminiscent of a post-apocalyptic novel, and the city's coffers are about as parched as its pipelines. Despite the state of Alabama sitting on a pile of federal infrastructure dollars, Pritchard's pleas seem to echo into the void. Perhaps they should consider rebranding itself as a tourist attraction for those interested in post-apocalyptic survival scenarios. The Pritchard Waterworks and Sewer Board has left the city drowning in debt and disrepair. With leadership changing about as frequent as water main breaks, it's no wonder residents have been left high and dry. One might suggest that the city's infrastructure plan involves a strategic partnership with a local duct tape supplier. Now, if all that's not bad enough, 5 people have been indicted in a multi-million-dollar scheme involving the Pritchard Waterworks and Sewer Board. This just happened a few days back. All 5 people indicted have pled not guilty in federal court. In a twist of irony, while the city calls for help, the residents are advised to boil water, assuming they could get any water flowing. It's a case of infrastructure held together by hopes, prayers, and perhaps a few rolls of flex tape. Now, there's a scorecard for infrastructure on cities. Anything above, let's say, 72 to 75 is passable. Once you get past 85, you are doing outstanding. If you are below 65, you suck. Pritchard has a score of 58. Number 9, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The city of brotherly love is showing a little affection for its infrastructure. Now, there's been a whole bunch of confusion by Pennsylvania officials. They were scrambling to address the impact of a sudden federal funding freeze that happened back in late January. The freeze has since been lifted, but it's caused some delays. As you can imagine, there was all kinds of lawsuits and this and that. They said the money was already allocated to them, or it was supposed to go to them, and then it got frozen, which wasn't right, and it went back and forth. Eventually, the White House rescinded the freeze, but there's a lot of problems that go with it. And this is a city that needs some infrastructure help. In total, Pennsylvania is supposed to get $2.2 billion for vital programs, and they have to fight to get all the money that's basically been promised to them. It's almost as if maintaining basic infrastructure is considered a luxury rather than a necessity in Philadelphia. Maybe they need some of that flex tape. Philadelphia's infrastructure score is 54. Number 8, Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles sidewalks are a tripping hazard, both literally and figuratively. Deteriorating pavement have led to costly lawsuits and injuries, with repairs often taking over a decade to happen. Despite a 2015 agreement to invest $1.3 billion over the next 30 years for repairs following a lawsuit by a disabled resident, progress is slow. It's especially harsh when the city's always on fire, and they gotta chase a camp of homeless people off the sidewalk so they could actually fix it. The high-speed rail project faces threats from the federal government, casting doubt on its future. Yeah, they got this whole plan, and they've done some of the work to do a high-speed rail from Los Angeles to San Francisco. In case you don't know, most of it is just open land, open farmland. So as far as making a train happen, that should be relatively easy compared to other places like trying to wind it all the way down to San Diego or something. But it has had problem after problem. I used to take an off-ramp near downtown LA for work. I'm talking almost 20 years ago. There's this little thing of uneven cement as you went down the off-ramp. One of those things where you hit it and there's like a bang to your whole car. Well, I went there about 6 years ago. The lip of cement, the little uneven cement, it was still there. It's as if Los Angeles is more interested in appearance than actual functionality. Perhaps they should consider investing in a dude named Tony. According to Doug, he can fix anything from your transmission to your cat. Los Angeles gets an infrastructure score of 54. Number 7, Chicago, Illinois. The Windy City's infrastructure is as shaky as a leaf in the breeze. The city council passed an $830 million bond for infrastructure improvements, but concerns about repayment and credit rating loom large over the city. Now, the S&P downgraded the city's credit rating after warning that Chicago faced, and I quote, a sizable structural budgetary imbalance. A defiant administration moved full speed ahead with plans to add to the city's already massive amount of debt. When you got a lot of debt, one of the first things that falls by the wayside is infrastructure projects. This is obviously just one of Chicago's many problems. I mean, if you go to the south side of Chicago, the infrastructure is horrible, but you'd never notice because you're running for your life in most cases. They're too busy worried about the crime rate down there to really worry about uneven sidewalks. In February of 2025, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker publicly released a memo claiming the federal government was withholding nearly $1.88 billion from the state that was earmarked for infrastructure. As if this state doesn't have enough problems to go around. And Chicago being the biggest city, yeah, they're going to see most of the problems. Chicago's infrastructure score is 53. Number 6, Detroit, Michigan. Detroit's comeback story seems to have skipped the chapter on infrastructure. The city secured a $346 million federal grant to combat infrastructure challenges and flood risks. But considering the magnitude of the issues, it's like using a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Now, Detroit is in the middle of a turnaround. I've said that in recent videos, but they were so far in the hole on just about everything, they got a long way to go. Now, I'm not knocking their improvement. Improvement is great. They're moving in the right direction. They just got a long way to go, further than most cities. One of the biggest problems they have that they're planning on fixing is old alley sewer lines and drains. This is going to help out with basements that keep getting backed up and flooded. They're also changing the way future homes are being built to prevent things like this in the future. Budget changes targeting transit and community violence intervention are in the works as well. But without addressing the crumbling roads and bridges, it's hard to see how the Motor City can keep motoring on. Detroit had a water main break during some really cold weather, and this is it. It flooded a street and froze. People's cars, up past their tires, were encased in ice. You don't need a snow shovel for that. You need a pickaxe or a frickin' flamethrower. Detroit's infrastructure score is 51. Number 5, New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans knows a thing or two about water, mostly how it ends up everywhere it's not supposed to be. So they have this thing called the Governance of Flood Protection Authority, and it's New Orleans. And it's under scrutiny, with allegations that vital flood protection infrastructure hasn't been maintained and funding has been wasted, prompting calls for a thorough explanation from the governor before any changes to the authority's structure are made. As of 2 weeks ago, a major shakeup is underway at the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority. 4 commissioners resigned amid growing concerns over leadership and the agency's focus on flood protection. The resignations come just months before the hurricane season, in which we all know hurricane season is like the exact opposite of Christmas for New Orleans. This, of course, has led to people wondering if the agency is prepared for the upcoming hurricane season. Perhaps relying on sandbags and good intentions isn't the best strategy after all. It's a classic case of too little too late, it seems. Now, besides all the flooding and the hurricane problems, the streets of New Orleans are some of the worst in the country. My family used to have a dune buggy we used to take out to the desert when I was a kid and go off roads, going through bushes, having a great time, just bouncing all over the place. I drove in New Orleans, reminded me of that. New Orleans infrastructure score is 50. Number 4, Baltimore, Maryland. Yes, Baltimore, like so many other major cities, has a lot of crime and a lot of other problems, infrastructure being one of them. Every time I've gone there, I've just been amazed at the amount of vacant buildings and vacant lots in a major city. There are some blocks in Baltimore that look like a scene from Escape from New York. Remember that Kurt Russell movie back in the 80s? Just like it. But Baltimore's infrastructure challenges are as enduring as the city's famed harbor, with recent developments highlighting both progress and persistent issues. In a pretty significant move, the Maryland Board of Public Works approved $74 million for Baltimore's water infrastructure projects. Now, what's cool is the funding aims to protect children from lead poisoning, prevent sewer overflow, and reduce stormwater pollution, and modernizing one of the state's largest wastewater treatment plants. You know, I don't know if other places do this, but I was talking to like the water guy by my house up here in Oregon one time, and we have all these little ponds all over the place. Sometimes they're just as big as, let's say, a normal house property would be on. So you'll see one of these in the middle of the block. Well, they always have reeds and stuff grown up out and tall grass. And this guy says they put them there because those reeds and the grass suck up all the oil coming off the streets when it rains. So then they just cut those down and dispose of them. I thought that's pretty cool. Anyway, Baltimore's investment is anticipated to create about 1,000 jobs, offering a glimmer of hope to the city's economy and public health. You can't go wrong there. Now here's the big problem. Their roads. Their roads are not in good shape, and their Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act of 2024 proposed that they cut $60 million from Baltimore's highway revenue. You know, I know there's a lot of things that need to be worked on, but when you're sort of known for having really horrible roads, maybe you shouldn't be cutting the budget there. Mayor Brandon M. Scott has not been happy about this, and he's been very vocal, reassuring them that without road maintenance, public safety is at risk. Further complicating the matters in Baltimore, they missed out on $1 million in funding intended to complete the Greenway Trail network. So they're going to have like hiking trails and green spaces, but that's kind of been put on hold. Now, the state had awarded the grant for this green space and these hiking trails 4 years prior, but they didn't use it quick enough. Then, of course, there's the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in March of 2024, which resulted in 6 fatalities and significant economic disruption. Maryland officials unveiled plans for a new bridge with enhanced protections against ship strikes, as they call it. That was a real bummer. It's just a big cargo ship was leaving and they lost all their power. And so they're just floating. Something that big runs into something, there's going to be some damage. And it took down the bridge. It's still not working. Over a year. Luckily, the ship was able to phone 911 and tell them, hey, we're heading towards the bridge. We're not sure what's going to happen. We have no power. Police were able to stop traffic, I believe, on one side, and not everyone had made it across from the other side. It was just a nightmare. But the new bridge is supposed to be pretty cool when it's finally completed in 2028. Now that's all in the future. Right now, their infrastructure is in bad shape. They are making progress towards fixing it all, but right now their score is not that high. The bridge collapse didn't help them. The infrastructure score for Baltimore, Maryland is 48. Number 3, Puerto Rico. Bit of a curveball. I know we've been talking about cities, but right now we're talking about the entire island of Puerto Rico, which, in case you don't know, it is an unincorporated territory of the U.S. They have good rum, good music, and amazing people, but their infrastructure blows. Puerto Rico's infrastructure challenges are as enduring as their vibrant culture, with recent developments highlighting more problems than they'd like to admit to. Now, in a significant move, the U.S. Department of Transportation awarded over $38 million to rehabilitate a marine terminal and the Curtis Creek Drawbridge. This funding aims to enhance the island's port infrastructure, which is basically crucial to the economic growth of this entire island. However, the island's transportation funding has faced setbacks, like hurricanes, flooding, and other tropical storms. They're also an island, so getting supplies over there can be challenging. Obviously not as bad as getting supplies to Hawaii, but still, they have their challenges. But when they do get supplies and they do have the money, they do make some good progress. But right now, Puerto Rico has an infrastructure score of 47. Number 2, Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, where all your hopes and dreams go to die. Jackson's got some infrastructure challenges, and they've been to the point of concern for some time. But in recent developments, they've started throwing some money at the problem. Like so many other places, they've got a water crisis. And in response to this water crisis, residents now have a formal platform to discuss and address their concerns, marking a step towards community involvement in infrastructure decisions, which that's the way it should be. When they're using your tax dollars, there should be input from the public. I mean, I know they try and pass bonds and all that other stuff, but, I've just always felt, especially when it comes to communities, city council members and whoever should debate it, and then, maybe a room full of citizens get to vote whether to do it or not. I don't know. I think one thing we've all learned that just because you voted for them doesn't mean they're going to do the things they said they're going to do. I mean, this has been obvious for decades and decades. I'm not surprising anyone with that one. Mississippi's infrastructure grade has seen a modest improvement. They're now a D-, reflecting efforts to address systemic issues. However, with over $8 million needed for water system funding, significant challenges remain in achieving sustainable solutions. Now, that's the entire state. They get a D-. I'm sorry, they were a D-, they're up to D now. City of Jackson, on the other hand, gets a big fat F, like in Phoenix. While these recent developments indicate efforts to address Jackson's infrastructure woes, the city's journey towards comprehensive improvement remains ongoing, with both advancement and obstacles making it hard to, complete anything. And stop typing. I know Phoenix isn't spelt with an F, okay? I wonder how many of you grammar cops are out there just typing away right now. There's no F in Phoenix. Jackson, Mississippi's infrastructure score is 47. All right, before we get to number 1, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, we would really appreciate if you did. And don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Really helps out the channel. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Flint, Michigan. Flint's infrastructure challenges are legendary. I mean, it goes beyond it, but the big pinnacle of a city's officials, elected and appointed, dropping the ball is the Flint water crisis. If you don't know, I'll give you a quick rundown. The Flint water crisis kicked off in 2014 when the city of Flint, Michigan decided to switch its water source from the Detroit system to the Flint River, all in an effort to save a few bucks. But here's the kicker. The river water was super corrosive and they didn't treat it properly. This meant the water started eating away at the old lead pipes. And yeah, you guessed it, the lead started showing up in people's tap water. Locals noticed something was off almost immediately. Brown water, nasty smells, rashes, hair falling out, but officials kept brushing it off like it was no big deal. It was a really big deal. Eventually, this turned into a full-blown disaster. Tests showed kids were getting poisoned by lead, and to make things worse, there was a Legionnaire's disease outbreak that killed at least a dozen people. The whole thing became the poster child for government screw-ups and environmental injustice. It took Flint's water 2 years to pass the state regulations. In the wake, a bunch of officials either quit or got charged, and even today, Flint is still rebuilding trust and replacing its pipes. The crisis showed just how badly things can go when people in charge don't listen to the experts, or they don't care enough to act. In 2021, a $626 million settlement was reached with the residents who sued the state and others after their drinking water was tainted with lead. Yeah, the lead pipe replacement is still ongoing, 11 years later. But it's not all just about water with them. The city is set to lose $15.6 million in federal funding for schools, further straining an already beleaguered system and impacting the educational infrastructure. But they are trying to move forward and get some things done. We'll see as time goes on. I'll give them another decade and a half. Flint's infrastructure score is 44. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.